So as Dravida Prabhu announced this morning, it is the disappearance day of Jiva Goswami and Jagadish Pandit. So I thought we could sing the song of separation. We may not feel it down to our heart, separation from Jiva Goswami or Jagadish Pandit, but such an important acharya for sure. I have a different book. Okie dokie. Oh. You want to lead, Brahmapati? You know what you're asking for. Okay. Yeyanilo Premadana Karuna Pracho Yeyanilo Premadana Karuna Pracho Hino Prabhu Kota Gela Chayatako Hino Prabhu Kota Gela Chayatako Kahamora Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan Kaha Dasa Raghunata Patita Pavan Kahamora Bhatta Yuga Kaha Kavira Eka Kale Kota Gela Gora Natara Pashane Kuti Bhomata Anele Pashibo Goranga Gunera Nidhi Kota Gele Pabo Se Saba Sangira Sange Je Koi Lobila Se sangana paya kandi narotamo das. Se sangana paya kandi narotamo das. Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Jai Vaishnav Thakur. Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Jai Vaishnav Thakur. He who brought the treasure divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where is such a personality as Srinivasa Acharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? Where is Krishna Das Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees, in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. Srila Jiva Goswami ki, Jagannath Pandit ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're getting to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 28th chapter, text number 64. Evam saha manaso hamso, evam sa manaso hamso, hamsena pratibodhita, hamsena pratibodhita. Swastas tat vyabhicharena, swastas tat vyabhicharena, nashtam apa punaha smritim, nashtam apa punaha smritim. Evam sa manaso hamso, hamsena pratibodhitaha, swastastad vyabhicharena, nashtamapa punasmritim. Evam sa manaso hamso, hamsena pratibodhitaha, swastastad vyabhicharena, nashtamapa puna prasmitim. Evam sa manaso hamso, hamsena pratibodhitaha, swastastad vyabhicharena, nashtamapa puna smritim. Evam sa manaso hamso, Hamsena prapidudita swastastad vibicharena tam apatunasmitim. Bhaktina pratibodhitaha swastastad vyavicharena pratibodhitaha swastastad vyavicharena Nastamapapanaftim. Evam, thus, saha, he, the individual soul, manasaha, living together within the heart, hamsaha, like the swan, hamsena, by the other swan, pratibodhitaha, being instructed. Now the words in this third line, Srila Prabhupada says, are the most significant in this verse. So, swasta, situated in self-realization. Tat vyabhicharena, by being separated from the Supersoul. Nashtam, which was lost. Apa, gained. Punaha, again, smritim, real memory. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. In this way, both swans live together in the heart. When the one swan is instructed by the other, he's situated in his constitutional position. This means he regains his original Krishna consciousness, which was lost because of his material attraction. Purport by His Divine Grace. Here it is clearly stated, Hamso Hamsena Pratibodhitaha. The individual soul and the Supersoul are both compared to swans, Hamsa, because they are white or uncontaminated. One swan, however, is superior and is the instructor of the other. When the inferior swan is separated from the other swan, he's attracted to material enjoyment. This is the cause of his fall down. When he hears the instructions of the other swan, he understands his real position and is again revived to his original consciousness. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, comes down, avatar, to deliver his devotees and kill the demons. He also gives his sublime instructions in the form of Bhagavad Gita. The individual soul has to understand his position by the grace of the Lord and the spiritual master, because the text of Bhagavad Gita cannot be understood simply by academic qualifications. We could almost say academic disqualifications, if you think that's what it takes to understand Bhagavad Gita. One has to learn Bhagavad Gita from a realized soul. Tadvidi panipatena pariprashnena seviya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshanaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Bhagavad Gita 4:34. Thus one has to select a bona fide spiritual master and become enlightened to his original consciousness. In this way, the individual soul can understand that he's always subordinate to the Supersoul. As soon as he declines to remain subordinate and tries to become an enjoyer, he begins his material conditioning. When he abandons the spirit of being an individual owner or enjoyer, he becomes situated in his liberated state. The word swastaha, meaning situated in one's original position, is very significant in this verse. When one gives up his unwanted attitude of superiority, he becomes situated in his original position. The word tad, vyabhicharena, is also significant, for it indicates that when one is separated from God due to disobedience, his real sense is lost. Again, by the grace of Krishna and Guru, he can be properly situated in his liberated position. These verses are spoken by Srila Narada Muni, and his purpose in speaking them is to revive our consciousness. Although the living entity and the Supersoul are one in quality, the individual soul has to pursue the instruction of the Supersoul. That is the state of liberation. Om Tat Sat. Please. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurn Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shita Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakapa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jagadish Pandit. There's two opinions about who he might be according to Gorgana Deshtapika. Jahusana, I think, was the name of a great dancer. And he would dance in ecstasy. We hear of, what is the other dancer's name? Vakeshwara Pandit. And Lord Chaitanya had said, if I had two wings, another wing like Vakeshwara Pandit, dancing in the kirtan, I could fly. So that particular Jagadish Pandit is known for his ecstatic dancing in the kirtans. And the one that is given most priority in glorifying Jagadish Pandit on this day, his disappearance anniversary, is he and his brother Haranya Garbha. They lived in Mayapur. I suppose you could say a stone's throw away from Lord Chaitanya, some distance away, but still, they were close friends of Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Mata, and they knew that Gauranga, Nimai, was Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it was Ekadashi, and that little baby Nimai, little child, he was crying and crying, and the mother Sachi and the ladies were trying to pacify him. What's wrong? What can we do? He said, Jagadish and Hiranyagarbha, they've offered some wonderful preparations to Lord Vishnu. And if I'm able to honor those preparations, if I can eat the food stuff they offered, then I'll become happy. And they're going, what in the world? How does this little child know it's Ekadashi to begin with? He said, I know it's Ekadashi, but they've offered wonderful foodstuffs to the Lord. Now, the Lord doesn't fast from beans and grains or, foodstuffs. There's no need. These things are for our self-purification. But he understood and he asked, and so they went and they got. And the brothers brought the foodstuff, the prasadam, Mahaprasadam, to little Nimai. And he shared it with his little playmates. And being so pleased with Jagadish and Ranya's offering to the Lord and bringing it to him, he displayed to them his form as the Lord. Gaura Gopal. Chaitanya is Krishna. Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Others couldn't perceive, but the Lord was so pleased. And it is stated that in their previous lives in Krishna Lila, do you know who they were? They were wives of the Yajnik Brahmanas, who, when the cowherd boys came begging for food for Krishna and Balaram, who were hungry, grumble, grumble in the stomach, they were also hungry. They immediately gave. They ran to the forest where Krishna and Balaram were and offered the foodstuffs. And they got such mercy, these two wives of the Brahmins, that they were allowed to engage in the same type of service to Lord Chaitanya and witness his childhood pastimes there in Navadvip. Jiva Goswami, oh my Lord, what can you say about Jiva Goswami? Lord Chaitanya, he wrote 8 verses, Shishastakam. Jiva Goswami wrote 400,000 verses. He's a direct disciple of Srila Rupa Goswami, who wrote 100,000 verses. It's a perfect example how the Lord is unlimited. He is the Supreme Person, Purushottama. And we're just his tiny, insignificant servants. But if the Lord empowers one because of their surrendered desire to simply please his senses, to assist him specifically for us, to assist him in the mission of his mission, then the devotee, the disciples, they can be empowered to do things far greater than their spiritual master, or even, you can say, the Lord. Lord Chaitanya preached in India. Srila Prabhupada preached throughout the entire world. Rupa Goswami wrote 100,000 verses. We're Rupanugas. Without Rupa Goswami, the 6 Goswamis, Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipano, who brought so many Shastras to Vrindavan, and they scrutinizingly studied them, taking the essence out of all of them, and explained it according to the teaching of Lord Chaitanya, Chintya Beta Beta Tattva. Only because of them do we have some inkling of an understanding of the supremacy of Radha and Krishna, Vrindavan, Lord Chaitanya, and the Sankirtan movement. We heard a verse this morning that if you approach the pleasure potency of the Lord, Radha, then you can get the mercy or get the service of Krishna, the Supreme Lord. And when one is serving the Supreme Lord, certainly one is getting the mercy of his pleasure potency, Shrimati Radharani. But there's no question of doing that unless you get the mercy of Shishi Gaur-Nitai. To get the mercy of Shishi Gaur-Nitai, we have to have the mercy of the teachings of the 6 Goswamis. It's said that Jiva Goswami was the most systematic propounder of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. His Satsandarbhas, they're unparalleled. He has this verse talks about Guru and Krishna, but specifically we're talking about the Supersoul. The Brahman is Krishna from within the heart, Shirodakshai Vishnu. And he's appearing at the time of the greatest need of Vidarbhi. She doesn't know what to do. In Bhagavad Gita, the perplexities of life are exhibited by Arjuna, being totally bewildered. He knows Dharma. He knows what's good and bad. But when it comes to this situation he was in, he, with all his knowledge, his culture, his training, he couldn't figure it out. He was totally bewildered. Similarly, Vidarbhi, she faithfully served her husband. But in an hour of crisis, when she was totally alone, that's how she felt. My master is gone. Who will give me shelter? And every devotee, unless they leave before their spiritual master leaves this manifest Leela, this world, that body, they'll experience the same thing. And if you don't, it means you haven't gotten the mercy of your spiritual master. You haven't embraced the teachings and the shelter that he offered. So when she needed it most, Chaitya Guru, he appeared in a form in which she could appreciate and hear. And it's interesting, we're winding up the teachings of Narada to Prachina Barshat, and he started out with the analogy of the swan, that you and I are swans. And he's ending it in the same way. I should have. My dear gentle friend, both you and I are exactly like swans. We live together in the same heart, which is just like the Manasa lake. Although we've been living together for many thousands of years, we are still far away from our original home. And then today he says, in this way both swans live together in the heart. When the one swan is instructed by the other, he's situated in his constitutional position. This means he regains his original Krishna consciousness, which was lost because of his material attraction. So in his teachings, the Brahman, the Lord of the heart, started out with, you're not the body. You're not this wife. This husband's not his body. You weren't the husband of Paranjani. These are all bodies. They're not you. They're not him or her. And which, of course, leads right into Atma Tattva, your spirit soul. Eternal, pure, uncontaminated. You have an eternal relationship with me. And the first step he takes is you and I are one in quality. We're both white. We're both uncontaminated. We're both pure. Neither one of us are of this world. But so many people, even if they understand that I'm not the body, I'm spirit soul, even if they realize that, the greatest majority of them don't understand the difference. The next step, it's abed, right? Not the same as the Lord. Bade is not the same, and abed means we are the same. Thank you, Dravida Prabhu. Both things have to be there. To understand ourself, our relationship with the Lord, and what it means to have a relationship with the Lord. He's saying, I'm your best friend. And he is. I loved how it was touched upon in the class of exterior and interior reasons for Lord Chaitanya coming. Preaching is the exterior reason. And for us, it's just as important as his interior. It's more important. If the Lord didn't extend himself in unlimited ways to pull us out of this hellhole, we'd remain here. If the Lord didn't have, the personified Vedas glorify him as, Lord, your greatest asset, your greatest quality is your mercy upon the conditioned souls. I mean, if he was like a conditioned soul, oh, you've stabbed me in the back, oh, you've turned away from me, oh, you've spoken badly about me, you've insulted me, you've tried to steal what is mine, enjoy. A conditioned soul is, forget you. You write them off quicker than anything. It happens all the time. I heard yesterday of a sibling in a almost crazed way denouncing and renouncing the relationship of his brother because of political opinions and beliefs. I mean, Kali Yuga, that's conditioned. On the spiritual platform, we're all brothers and sisters, servants and maidservants of the Lord. This is what the swan is teaching the subordinate swan, what the Lord is giving us in so many ways. And if it weren't for the teaching, Jiva Goswami in one of the Sat-Sandarbhas, he has one book called Paramatma Sandarbha. I mean, he extensively explains, this is inconceivable. subject matter. We get kind of a grasp of some of the rudimentary, explanations and the examples, which like sun, sunshine, sun reflected in the pots of water, gold in a gold mine. They roll off the tongue, but what is that verse? I thought it was applicable for trying to understand the Supersoul in the way in which I'm describing. Krishna. Some look on the Supersoul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing. Some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. That's adapting a verse about the soul. But the Supersoul is even more difficult. Brahman, Paramatma. And the Goswamis, they've taken the teachings of the Lord and the Vedas, the scriptures, and they've given us the essence. One person. I'm sitting here. I'm not home. I'm not outside. I'm not anywhere. I'm right here. The Supersoul is right here. What is that? I should have kept it, Paramanu's Durantarastam. The verse from the Brahma Samhita. Would you lead it? Because I can follow. Eko piso rachitun kotim chakshare. No. Jagadanda chayantanta datarasta paramanu chayantarastam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. It's the third line that I'm referring to. The Lord is one person, but He's everywhere. In a localized fashion, not impersonally, not energy, like the laws of the land. They're all pervasive in this country. It's an energy. But in every single heart of every single living entity, in every atom, ultimately, Sarva Kalamidam Brahma. Brahman, you can use the term for Supersoul also. He's everywhere, but He's one person. How do you wrap your head around that, really? Can you? Just start to open up to how many living entities are. There's a little insect right now flying around. You don't see him. He exists. The Lord sees him. The Lord's right there flying around with him, waiting for him to come to the point of being able to hear from him. I take morning walks in japa, and I see so many things now that I've started opening my eyes. Now you can walk by some along the river, and there's all these birds that have the same color as the vegetation, or flowers. And if you stop and you look and you finally wait, and your vision kind of adapts to what you got so many bees flying around that you never saw. You could walk by it all the time. I mean, the reality of this material universe, it's jam-packed with living entities everywhere, and Krishna is accompanying each and every one, as long as they are within the material world. He doesn't give up on us. I've said it 3 times now, 3 times in a row. He doesn't give up on us. He's our best friend. And it behooves us somehow or other to hear from Him. Now, it's stated, I believe, in the 2nd canto in a purport that it is for His pleasure that He creates this material, this material worlds. I mean, the first time I read it, I was like, whoa, this is a place of misery, temporary, suffering, all pervading. He likes that. And that's what the less intelligent, less fortunate condition tells thinks. It's God's fault. He made it. I'm suffering. It's His fault. But no, the pleasure He receives from it is for you and I to get back to His eternal service. He's simply enjoying with Srimati Radharani and the Vrajbasis. That's the internal. That's what He really relishes. And He doesn't take His eye off the ball. He's always absorbed there, eternally. Yet He's so kind. It's not the same without you. Come back. Let's get back into it. Why have you turned away? And as such, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream. Mayavadis think that. But the validity of the dream is that, it is Mahavishnu's dream. It's a mystic slumber, and in enjoying spirit with Ramadevi, the goddess of fortune, he creates the place where the conditioned souls, the envious, can go and they can work it out. They can snap out of their amnesia that you mentioned the other day. And he's there to assist us at every step. Those who think that God is not involved, that he's just in Goloka Vrindavan, they're not thinking of or understanding the Brahma-samhita verse we just quoted. He is simply enjoying. That's what he wants to do, but he creates all this facility and thoroughly enjoys the dance of bringing us back home. He has nothing better to do than to sit patiently and arrange life as the overseer. We say it all the time, not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord. I mean, that's inconceivable. Rolls off the tongue real easy, but it's like until one is manifesting the purity of spirit on the level of the purity of the Lord, you can't really understand. It's intellectual. But that's what we have to work with, and that's what we do, and the Lord's so kind that purifies us. Slowly but surely, we're going to get there by His mercy, by mercy of Guru. Supersoul. What do you think of when you think of Supersoul? There's so many ways to think of Him. Little four-armed Lord in the heart. One of you said, it was in my wall. That's what I chanted, who I chanted to, Paramatma. Chaturani had a beautiful picture. Beautiful. I still remember it. Yeah. And, but then did you know that the deities, one of the 5 ways in which they manifest to the devotee is as Supersoul? We all have pictures of the Lord and Srimati Radharani in our cameras. To what degree has that been transferred and embedded in our consciousness? I'll share with you, there was one class in particular I came out of in Mayapur, and there was talk about the Lord in the heart of everyone. And when I came down, I sat down on the steps in the Panchatattva temple, and I just kind of was looking, and this is no deep spiritual realization. It was almost like an LSD experience. But when I was looking, instead of, the eyeballs, they focus according to the opinions and perspective and whatever you've accepted as reality of this world. That's what you see. If you're thinking the goal of life is money, you're only going to be absorbed in making money. You'll see money opportunities everywhere you look. Lusty man, everywhere he looks, he'll see a victim for his pleasure, sensual pleasures. So whatever your mentality is, that's what you see. So having been broadened and just, so I was chanting and just looking, and I could see all the devotees, so many, there was, dozens, 200 or 300 devotees milling around after the Bengali class and the English class. And I could just appreciate that Radha Madhava were in the heart of every one of them. And that actually He was allowing, reciprocating according to their desires, letting them move through this world in this machine, this vehicle. The pure devotee has that all the time. So the deity is one way in which they can manifest. Krishna personally, Chaturvyuha, Leela Avatar, the deities we see with our rubber eyeballs, are as Supersoul. 5 ways in which they can reciprocate. We can meditate and think Girdhari is in everyone's heart. Or Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he would talk about Lord Nityananda in the heart. Because Lord Nityananda, he's Balaram, and from Balaram comes the Purushas. Maha, Garbhodakshai, Shiodakshai Vishnus. And you want to get some added insight into Supersoul? Crack open Sri Laghu Bhagavatamrita by Rupa Goswami. It is incredible what is in here. It's the small nectar of the Bhagavatam. written after Brihat, the great nectar of the Bhagavatam, by his guru, by his elder brother, Sanatana Goswami. And the glorifications of the Supersoul. I don't have time, but long time back I had some desire to understand, what is this Aranyagarbha thing? Aranyagarbha basically is the universal form of the Lord, but how is Lord Brahma glorified as the universal form? It's right there in the purport. It's all revealed. Just keep on going in your service and everything will be revealed. In fact, it said, one who has implicit faith in both the spiritual master and Krishna, everything will be revealed. By their grace, if we have full faith in them, we will be allowed to realize these things. Yasya deve parabhaktir yata deve tatagaro tatita katitaryan prakashante mahatmana. I stumbled through it. Implicit trust in something sublime. That's what's necessary. Implicit. Vyavasayatmika buddhi here. Focused. If we're not progressing in Krishna consciousness, guess what? We're regressing. There is no neutral state. You're either advancing or you're not. And if you're not, then you're acting on other desires outside of Krishna's service and pleasure. That's the way it works. To become comfortable that I like where I'm at in Krishna consciousness. I got it made. This is a dangerous, that lethargy, the lack of the sense of urgency is so dangerous to one's advancing in Krishna consciousness. It's the mission of the Lord that keeps us going forward. It's the Sankirtan movement that helps us to advance in Krishna consciousness. To the degree we're playing a part. And the other day I was humbled. I was listening to some second generation devotees in a podcast, 3 of them. And I realized what an insignificant part I play in this Sankirtan movement. These devotees are reaching thousands of people daily and inspiring them in bhakti. Srila Prabhupada quoted the Tadvidi Pranipatena verse, submissively inquiring. And in the purport, Prabhupada emphasizes submission whether you're rendering service or submissiveness when you're inquiring. And I always like to think of how the things I hear you Prabhus or others say, how does it relate to me? Is it just something that I want to be able to repeat and impress people with? Or am I actually embracing it and seeing, what does that mean to me? I mean, sometimes in our relevance in this movement, to the degree we step out of the current of Sankirtan fever, we become complacent. We forget. That's what the covering potency of Maya does. The weeds growing next to the Bhakti Lata can look just like the Bhakti Lata to the undiscerning eye, to the complacent practitioner. We have that fake basil, for example. I've seen one temple once, their whole greenhouse was full of basil. It wasn't Tulsi. Looked like Tulsi, but they were worshiping a conditioned soul. Now, very fortunate, I assume, they're in the family of Tulsi. But day and night, liberated and conditioned souls. So I want to, in terms of this submissiveness, they, by the grace of Guru and Krishna, I could understand, oh my gosh, it's humiliating to think how little I participate and offer to this mission of my spiritual master. And I want to balance it, because we should be harsh and strict on ourselves, but very liberal and appreciative of everyone else. When I speak, like last couple of times I was fired up, animated, speaking very strongly. Today the mood is more introspective and it's humbling. But we think we're in ISKCON. It's the biggest branch of Lord Chaitanya's tree. But sometimes we think because I'm in ISKCON or I have the best spiritual master, then we think that translates into I'm the best. It doesn't. It's the same as I'm born in a family of Brahmins, that makes me a Brahmin. No, it doesn't. Just because I have the haircut and the clothes and I even speak the language doesn't mean that I am on the platform of the pure swan-like devotees. Not at all. It doesn't necessarily mean that at all. It means I'm very fortunate. Just whenever we come in front of the deities, other temples or ISKCON temples, and we say Namo Om Vishnupadaya, the Lord immediately perks up. Oh, this is a servant of Srila Prabhupada? Right there, the Lord says that those who are dear to those who are dear to me, they're dear to me also. I mean, we're so fortunate. But in our desire to please the spiritual master and Krishna, we have to be trying to carry on in advancement and be serious about what's being offered. I saw a man running yesterday, and I don't know if he was ex-military or if he's in the military or if he's just a health, forgive the slang, nut. But this man ran by me, full on. And I looked back and I assumed he had started way back at the ocean and he was running to the bridge. And he ran full on, not jogging, not sprinting, full on, like you're putting that extra boost to go to the finish line, cross it. And then as I continue walking and chanting, he came back full speed. I'm going, holy smokes, he's a monster, he's a machine. Like a horse. And then he came back again. I'm going, God, if I only had a little bit of desire in spiritual life like him. Not to sit back comfortably, but to do the necessary to help the spiritual master and Gauranga's message, his mission. Srila Prabhupada told Jayapataka Swami, you should act as if you're always in a marathon. And I hope this will sink into some of my Prabhus. The marathon is officially over, but don't let it be over. I'm a pea shooter. I'm a peon. But I'm saying it will be good for our temple. I'm going to put one other thing, and I think hopefully you might see some relevance in what I'm going to share. It was eye-opening when you said that liberation, the desire for liberation, mukti, it's out of fear. And the Bhagavatam says that's kaitava dharma, doesn't it? It's cheating. And like I said, I always try to think, how's that apply to me? Now, I don't want to go into Brahman. That's not an idea that even enters into my mind. I met a god brother one time in Rishikesh back in the 70s. Doesn't matter what body or culture he was from, but his upbringing was probably a lot more Mayavadi, aware, conscious of what Mayavadi teachings are than just our regular, it's all about me. I'm the center of the universe, and yeah, intellectually I'll say you're God too. He wanted to go to Brahman. That's why he chanted Hare Krishna. I want to go to Brahman. No problem, tatustu. It's a done deal. So that's not how that point applies to me. But to what degree am I afraid about the circumstances of the present? And the way it clicked was these Prabhus, second generation, who are actually more relevant than myself for sure. And one could ask oneself, to what degree am I spreading, bringing others into the Bhakti fold? But they said, we don't want ISKCON to become the house that a very few live in. The doors are shut right now. And if you don't have the preaching spirit, which you can have in all circumstances, there's nothing that can stop the preaching spirit or the Sankirtan movement. Nothing. But if you don't have it, then what happens? One godbrother said, our temples become like the House of Lords. They wear their powdered white wigs. I got a funny hairdo, they got a funny hairdo. But the atrophy, and we ought to look. We're about to lose the association of one of our Prabhus by the Lord's sanction and His desire. And then very soon afterwards, another one of my Prabhus will go home. Deservedly so. If we're not making devotees, then what's happening? If you're not pushing forward, what happens? You're regressing. Krishna's in control, and I want to make mention of this. All of us who serve the deities or know of the service of the deities, we've had better days in the standard of service to Radha Giridhari. And we should be aware of that. And I think that's the whole fear of why the doors are closed. We don't want it to be dropped and lost, the service to the Lord. We don't want them inconvenienced. But they're taking care of themselves, really. And they bless those. If you simply serve the deities nicely, and that means how they want. What do we know what they want? Have you heard Him speak to you? But what Srila Prabhupada gives us, what are the standards? To the degree we follow those, to that degree, without question, Radha Giridhari are pleased. And when Radha Giridhari are pleased, there is no shortage of anything. The only lack, we're told, is Krishna consciousness. That's the only shortage. So but balanced, that point balanced with Srila Prabhupada when some devotees made light of, oh man, look at the standard of that old temple. It's dusty, it's dirty. Prabhupada said, well, at least they're carrying it on. Some of these deities have been worshipped for hundreds of years. At least they're doing something. Jagadish's wife, Dukhinini, she was given a deity by Lord Chaitanya. It was a self-manifesting deity. You worship this because her husband was going to Puri to be with Gauranga. And she was feeling great separation, like Vidarbhi from her husband. She didn't know what to do, and the Lord kindly appeared and said, you worship this deity. And to this day, the deity is being worshipped. So whatever we have, the worship's going on, and I bow down and take the dust of everyone participating in the service of the Lord. But I thought that it was relevant. We have to be careful not to become complacent. And I'm preaching to myself. Please understand first and foremost. But if it has any relevance in your life, then contemplate it. What can we do to do outreach to bring others into the family? And if we're not submissive in our reciprocation with Guru and Krishna, then the arrogance, the sarcasm, the ability to think oneself better than others, that simply is a filter that blocks the flow of mercy from on high, down through the disciplic succession. Submissive in service, submissive in inquiries. And if one has that mood, then have no doubt that Guru and Krishna will take care of us and reveal to us everything we need to know to render them service and be fully satisfied. Are there any questions or comments? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Yes, Prabhu. I don't see anything on the...
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. I don't see any questions here, but I see 17 people watching online now.
Our faithful...
Madhusudhan Prabhu is also with us in Zoom.
Who?
Madhusudhan Prabhu.
My Prabhu, my friend. Hare Krishna. Yeah. How do I put it on a high note?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu. You trying to save me here? Throw me a line. It's a glorious movement, and just being a part of it is glorious. Lord Chaitanya is not looking for perfect. He's looking for dedication. He's looking for desire. There's so many statements that say, Nityananda, Lord of the heart. If he sees somebody simply wanting to serve Gauranga, he's purchased by them. I mean, it's all auspicious. But the points that I've shared, at least in the latter part of the class, was let's try and pray to become empowered, to bring others into the fold. It's good for us, it's good for them. And whatever role we play, let's just do it to the best of our ability. Remembering Krishna, serving His pleasures, His senses, the mission of Gauranga, the mission of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for your association, your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki.
Jai.
Jai.